Welcome back, Mistakes listeners. This is Dave, and this would happen to be episode 36. Anyway, we watched Netflix original show Popples this week, and we had actually a lot of fun with this one. We recorded this episode on 11/7/2015. Hey, you can actually follow us on Twitter at Parent Mistakes, and you can like us on Facebook at Parenting Mistakes. Hey, sit back and enjoy the show.
So I got another quiz for Dave.
Okay. This is the quiz suite. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
I love giving you quizzes. You get all nervous and agitated.
Go ahead. I'm ready. I'm ready
Okay.
this time. I'm prepared.
Well, we talked in a previous episode about how the government was telling you how to parent,
Yeah.
sort of, right?
Yeah.
And giving you
Guidelines
amount of time, right?
to watch. Yes.
Yes, to watch
time,
TV.
Screen time.
Yeah. So I guess a question related to that is, should parents treat screen time as a whole, or can they separate screen time between, say, TV and, say, a console video game system and then, say, smart devices? Is all of that the same thing in terms of screen time? And should parents give their kids choices? Say you get X number of minutes or whatever of screen time per day, or is it different because television is strictly passive, whereas gaming does have a level of interaction and participation?
Yeah. So I know that you're fond of the term screen time, and that's always kind of a misnomer to me because my wife, who obviously works, you work, your wife, I don't know, how much time do you spend in front of your computer a day? Like you personally?
It varies.
Yeah, my wife spends the entire pretty much 6 hours to 8 hours in front, outside of meetings and stuff, but she's always in front of a screen, right?
Right.
So
But she's not, she's working.
she is working, and I go, but could you consider that screen time? Well, of course you could, because she's staring at a screen. She's not staring at anything. So, well, she is staring at something. Sorry. But the question is like entertainment screen time or just screen time in general. So we actually got a gift from our grandparents for abcmouse.com.
Okay.
Which I actually would recommend. I really like it. It's educational. What it does for Keeling and Maddie is it gives them kind of an opportunity. Now they don't like to use it, but it gives them sort of like a prep for kind of some of the things to come. It
Okay.
gives them like educational challenges in which, hey, if you put the letter A with Apple, that's the first letter of Apple, right? And
Right.
they're kind of like a little gamey, but at the same time they do feel like a prep for things to come. Perhaps some homework that they're going to have to do, right? So would I consider that screen time? Yes. But is it valuable? Yes. I think it's actually an okay thing. Considering that in our society today, we spend an incredible amount of time in front of the screen. It's just a matter, again, it's always this question of choice and getting them to watch or do the good thing in front of the screen versus the just, I'm wasting my life away watching whatever or doing this whatever. And I sound like an old fuddy-duddy when I say that. It's you're watching the TV until you just waste away to nothing, right? I'm like,
Yes.
yes. So again, strict entertainment screen time, are you saying, like, is there a difference? Yes. Strict entertainment screen time is it different than say ABC Mouse for them? Is it all chalked into that 2 hours? Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't think they should have any more than say 2 hours. I actually do think that's a good, 2 hours is great in that it gives me a little bit of a break. It also gives my wife an opportunity to work out. And then they
Okay.
can kind of do the thing that they've been desiring to do.
Well, I think some of it depends on the, say, interests of your kids. So if they want to spend if they are drawn to, say, certain TV shows, if they're drawn to certain types of games, that may be a little different than, say, other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest spends some time on the computer, but she also does, part of that time is doing math.
Sure.
She's got an online math thing that she does at school, and she likes to get on and do extra math.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does.
That's my daughter right now. She loves to spell things. She spends an incredible amount of time spelling because she's learning how to spell. It's emergent behavior for her, communication, right?
Okay.
So she does it during screen time.
Well, and it's an interesting thing in terms of tracking too, because it is different today. Whereas back in the day, you could sort of know, okay, my child is sitting down in front of a television. I know what time it is, particularly with regular television with episodes. And we've talked about this before. Is there a difference between, say, old school TV where it was 30 minutes including commercials, whereas today
Right.
if you're on Netflix it's 23, versus, say, you're out and about and you let your kid, have your phone or a tablet or something like that, and they're on it for 5 or 10 minutes and little bits and pieces and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different. So
I also think, again, this goes back to what I've said before. We are prepping our children for a screen time universe. And I want them to make appropriate choices. It's inevitable. If both daughters end up working in a white-collar job, they're just going to be staring at a screen. And what are they doing when staring at the screen? And I want them to make good choices. And obviously, at the end of the day, I want them to make good choices around their entertainment choices as well.
yes.
It's all a matter of what's happening. And you're saying it's like what's happening during screen time. And it has. I think for you and I, it's just changed so much because in the 80s, it was just simply strictly entertainment and advertising. There wasn't anything. It wasn't interactive. Yet there was a Nintendo console, there was an Atari console, but really it was strictly just kind of TV and entertainment. And now it's incredibly interactive. It's crazy. Man,
Yes.
how many times have you sit there watching YouTube or whatever, and a little pop-up comes up? This is a pop-up advertisement that's telling me to go do something, right? Do I click on it? If I click on it, now I'm going somewhere else. I mean, it's just so. That would never happen, right? Imagine that in the 80s TV, and suddenly I'm putting my, all this. Well, if it's the 80s, probably ghosts come out of the TV, right? Because I've touched it, right? But yeah, it's crazy. And then the idea here as parents is to, again, just kind of start working with them on this time and trying to give them an avenue in which to go. My mom is fond of saying that the internet is evil. I'm like, well, I don't think the internet is innately evil. That's an old fuddy-duddy thing to say. I think it's a matter of, like, where are you going on the internet and what choices are you making?
Well, the internet certainly provides an ample supply of opportunities to interact with evil. How about that?
I completely agree.
And an easier path too.
Sure, absolutely. But we want our children who are in a screen time universe to start making the right choices at this point, and hopefully we can kind of help them in that way, right? Again, the reason we're doing this crazy show.
Yes.
Because we are inundated now more than ever with entertainment.
Well, speaking of things popping up on YouTube videos.
That was a good segue.
Yeah,
you
you
are
like
the
that?
segue master, man.
I am the segue master, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
I am a cunning linguist.
Oh my gosh! So it's funny because I actually had. Well, on jumping the gun, we watched Popples.
We watched Popples.
Yes, and I've actually had a Popple toy in our house. Like,
Really?
long before I actually knew there was a show, which was this week, we've actually had these things in our house. They're kind of clever,
Okay.
right? They actually do form a little ball, and then you hit a button, and they become little creatures.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the Popples are. So we've said before we use really, really strong literary sources to do, background information, like Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
So as Wikipedia says, the Popples resemble colorful teddy bears / rabbits.
Sure.
So they have pom-pom tipped tails. They're basically, well, like many other shows that we have reviewed, they are a toy. They were a toy that was converted into a show.
Yes.
And
I didn't know what the toy was. That's what I'm saying. It's like, what the heck is this? But now I know.
So, yeah. And then once you have a TV show, or vice versa, if you go the other direction, if you have a TV show and then you have merchandise to go along with it, then you have an ongoing sort of relationship of cross-promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So the Popples are these little animals which they have pouches on their back, which allows them to then fold into these pouches and become a ball.
You are obviously reading the wiki site.
I am.
You actually never see this little.
I've seen the toys.
Yeah, and
basically you take a teddy bear and you fold it in on itself and it turns into a ball.
Yeah, it's a
and
sphere.
then you can roll it around.
It's adorable.
And then you can pop it out, hence the name Popple.
Popples.
So this is a reboot. There was a show back in the 80s.
Good grief.
There was.
I had no idea.
There was.
Wow.
It aired from 86 to 87.
Wow. Okay, well, yeah. Okay, that's why.
We were freshmen in high school, so.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. So, yeah. The current version, which is on Netflix, yet another series is premiering on Netflix.
We love Netflix. I heart Netflix.
We love Netflix.
Yeah.
And it follows the same sort of 2-for-1 special setup in that you get 2 11-minute episodes
Yep.
in a 22 to 23-minute slot.
Yep.
So, tell me your Popple experience.
Well, so let me try to combine both episodes because they're got some similar themes. One episode was basically about the science Popple who does experiments that get out of control.
I don't think that's their actual name, by the way,
Yeah,
but it's a good one.
Science Popple. Science Popple. But the wacky experiments that she does get out of control, and she actually builds an experiment for a science show, and it is a home security / home everything gadget, which when she installs in the house, it goes crazy, and everything in the house goes nuts, and they've got to try to figure out how to actually... They all get trapped in the house. They got to figure out how to get out of the house. The other episode involved Sports Popple, who ends up getting a cold, and they've got basically 2 hours to figure out how to get rid of the cold so that she can play in the playoffs.
Some sort of game, which resembled, I thought, Quidditch from Harry Potter.
Yes, but I would also say...
It was Quidditch crossed with skateboarding.
Yes. Well, it's specifically built for creatures that turn into balls.
Right.
Right.
It was skate or die plus Quidditch.
Right. And the funny thing is, too, is that... Okay. So they would have been really clever had the Popples actually been the ball itself and they were shooting themselves with the hoop. That would have been cool. But instead they actually had a ball that they were throwing through the hoop. I'm like, come on, they're already balls.
Yeah.
Why not just toss the other Popples into the hoop? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's like playing soccer. You don't need a ball. Just
we're
just
the ball. I am the ball. Hey, goal! I made myself go in. Right? Like that would have been a blast. But instead, see, I think that was one of the things that I had a hard time with the show is that why are you not exploiting this Poppleness? The fact that they're Popples and they're not really exploiting their Poppleness, they're just kind of throwing you classic stories that we've watched a million times with kid shows, and they're not actually like, oh, I can, like I said, turn myself into a ball and I'm being thrown into the hoop or whatever. Instead, they're just playing sports, but they're Popples on a Popple rink. So all that to say is that I actually did find some of the writing pretty clever. If we go back to, okay. I always get confused on these points. Yes, it's the classic story of the science experiment gone crazy. But at the beginning of, say, that particular show where the science experiment goes crazy, they actually give you a couple of hints as to how they're going to resolve the show at the beginning of the show. Right? Yes. So that they talk about some of her experiments that have gone wrong, which was a hairdryer that went crazy and turned all the power off in the Popple village. And they talked about another experiment of hers, which was a hoverboard that was so fast that no one could actually ride it. Okay? So then you go through this whole episode where this new science experiment goes crazy in this house and they can't get out of the house, but the ultimate resolve is, hey, do you remember that hairdryer we made? If we can just flip the switch, we can turn the power off, and that will turn off this experiment. Which I thought, it's a nice little bookends to that particular 12-minute show. It didn't have to go that way. And then she realizes, hey, I'm late for my science show, and so suddenly the hoverboard, I can't remember why the hoverboard suddenly appears, but she's able to get on the hoverboard and get to the science show quick because the hoverboard is quick. Yeah. And, of course, she wins the science fair. So that's one show, right? The other show, obviously, was this match. And you could see it right from the very beginning. The minute the crazy Popple lands in the batch of flowers, I realized, right away, she's allergic to the flowers. She's actually
right. She's got allergies.
She's got allergies. I'm sorry if you haven't seen episode 2 of the Popples.
Or you just gave it away.
It's a major spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
She's got an allergy, and her sickness was immediately cleared up. Once again, no parents, right?
Yep.
Any authority figure there is probably the coach. There's the coach.
Coach.
Right.
Who actually dialogued with, but was still sort of a goofy background character.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if Popple. So I was trying to get myself enriched in Popple lore, right? Like, what exactly is it like to be a Popple? I actually thought more harder on it as to what it is to be a Popple than I think the writers did. I think the writers were clever in their story, but I'm like, they're just underutilizing Poppleverse, where there could be a whole lot of fun here. Like, their entire city is made out of chutes and ladders, right?
Right.
It's kind of fun, right?
Because they roll all over the place.
Yeah, and they got secret traps and trap doors and little Popple holes, and I think they're cute. They're putting a lot of effort into the show, right? I didn't feel like, low amounts of effort. I'll say this, too, pretty benign, right?
Yes.
Again, as a 44-year-old, yes, it was hard to sit through, because I'm like, there's nothing, all the cleverness for me is gone. But if I was a little boy, little girl, I think I actually find the show pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly got a frantic energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say Cartoon Network frantic. It's not like Uncle Grandpa frantic.
No, nowhere even close.
But it certainly has a fast-paced tone to it. Yeah. This is not a slow, methodical thing. And I don't know, there was also the Popple that was eating the pies in was that the first episode?
No, it's the crazy Popple.
That's the crazy Popple. Yeah.
Right. The wacky Popples.
The crazy Popple is always going to sort of be the straw that stirs the drink.
Sure.
That's just, it doesn't really matter if they try to have a calm day. The crazy Popple is going to show up and just turn everything into chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestle with this type of a show because, on the one hand, again, there's so much content out there that's just not appropriate for kids. And this is just kind of a little bit of goofy fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of a moral. It's clean. The dialogue is actually fairly clever. There's sort of the beginnings of the Disney Channel snarkiness, but not too bad. And it's just sort of fun. I mean, you talked about getting to the world of the Popples. I mean, this is sort of the entry-level universe for imagination when it comes to certain shows.
Sure.
You have a bunch of characters in a make-believe land that really their only purpose in life is just to kind of hang out and have little domestic adventures.
Right.
Yep. Nobody has to go to work. Nobody has to commute. Nobody has to go grocery shopping. Nobody has to fill up their cars.
Yeah, I did get the impression they were kids.
Yeah, it's just a happy land, and they just hang out and are goofy.
Right.
And on the one hand, you could say, well, that's not a very realistic message to give to our young people. But at the same time, you got to say, hey, kids, it's good for kids to just sort of play make-believe land.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for them to just enjoy the innocence of their youth and just say, oh yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we lived in a land that was all chutes and ladders and we could just roll around all the time? And wouldn't it be cool if we lived in a treehouse with a whole bunch of trapdoors and secret entrances? So yeah, it's painful to watch as an adult because
there's nothing like over-the-shoulder viewing. Like watching ponies with my girls is always entertaining because there's always something there for me.
Right.
So it's not a Pixar. It's not a Pixar vehicle where it's a little bit for everybody. It's strictly for what you're saying.
Younger kids.
Younger kids just having a good time.
It's a big jar of marshmallow cream and a spoon.
Yep.
And of course, the parenting mistake, of course, is to not realize that this has a subtle impression on the kids because it is still 2 11-minute toy commercials.
Yeah, I always forget that. I get sucked in because I'm like, oh, I really like what's happening, but you're totally right on that point.
Yeah, you can't separate that. You have to realize this is a promotional vehicle for selling toys.
Popples.
Yes, they're selling the show, which sells advertising. That's one piece of the puzzle. But this is selling toys.
Mm-hmm.
And not just Popples, but toys in general.
Which is why I think and this is funny, but it's why I'm like, why aren't they more poppily versus just, here's the kid show trope. Somehow they need to rethink it and really make them like, we roll because of this. I mean, there's so much of that culture that you could adopt and be really cool with.
The general mission is accomplished in that you have them rolling so that a kid can get one of these things and roll it around the house and roll it down ramps and roll it down the slide at the park and that sort of thing. I mean, they can totally do that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas, when we were growing up, when we had action figures and stuff, I mean, sure, you could do little battles and you could sort of do, sort of make-believe stuff, but you could never quite recreate what happened on the shows.
No.
Whereas with this thing,
you could.
It's pretty simple.
Yep.
You put it in ball mode and you roll it down the slide.
Yeah. Let's go buy some today, Todd.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sold.
Yes. So I would look at this type of show if someone said, "Hey, is this show okay?" I said, "Sure, it's fine."
Yeah.
Are they learning? Are they learning something? There again is the little aspects of teamwork and about responsibility and, oh no, I'm going to miss the game because I'm sick, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is little bits and pieces of, oh, I'm going to go and lie to the coach and wear a disguise so that I can, get in.
Right.
There is that.
Right.
Which we've seen before. I think we saw that on ponies. We've seen that in other things where the good guys are always sort of given a pass on deception.
Yep.
Because they go, oh, well, they're the good guys. They're lying because they have good intentions of fulfilling their obligations. In this case, playing in the big game. They're the star of the big game. They're going to let their team down, and so they're going to lie to the coach and sneak their way in. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a dodgy message to the kids.
But I will say this, at a counterpoint to that, it's the first episode, the science Popple, that gets everything out of control. She does apologize to her friends.
She does.
She does say, I am very sorry for all these things that I did. And she tries to make it up to them as well.
Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah. Popples.
So I'll get on Amazon. I'll order you a Popple and ship it to your house so you can roll it down the stairs. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
All right, you can follow us on Twitter. Because we tweet.
Yes, we do.
Because that's what, guys in their 40s do. They tweet things.
Tweet all day.
And you can like us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Parenting Mistakes. And we hope you give us some feedback and listen to all our episodes and tell all your friends.
And it's time to pop out.
I see what you did there.